Okay, we're gonna get started now then. So good morning everyone, or good afternoon now as it is in the UAE. Still good morning in Saudi. So thank you all for joining this Spectra Live presentation in conjunction with our partners Forefront Technologies. And we're going to be giving you an update on everything Spectra, so you're all up to date with everything. Adam, could you whiz on to the next slide, please? So presenting today will be myself. I'm the regional sales manager for the Middle East, and also my colleague Adam Ricks, who is our advisory solutions architect. So all things technical, and also all things sales as well, along with myself. We're going to be I'm going to be giving the introduction today, as I'm doing now, and Adam will take over and go through the technical part of the presentation, the products and everything. So next slide, please, Adam. Obviously, this presentation is in conjunction with Forefront Technologies, as I said. Some of you may know Forefront. I know we have Forefront guys on the call, so please bear with me. They are a leading provider of IT infrastructure, as you can see there from the slide, storage backup, archiving products and solutions. They have a long history of business in the Middle East, and they have been a distribution partner, master distribution partner for Spectra Logic since 2013, which is the year I joined Spectra. And I had a previous longer association with Forefront Technologies before that. So I've known the guys there for many years. They are a good and trusted partner in the region, and we're very happy to have a long and established relationship with Forefront Technologies. Because of their skills and their background in the industry, they have a large pool of expertise in terms of pre-sale sales, and also with on-site implementation of solutions. So Surya is your main contact there. His email address is on the screen, and obviously we'll be following up with everybody after this presentation. Next slide, please, Adam. So, as I said earlier, thank you for joining this presentation, and as part of the incentive, in conjunction again with Forefront Technologies, we will be having a draw at the end of this presentation where we'll be giving away 3 Amazon gift vouchers to 3 people that basically come out of the hat. So I will announce that at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please, Adam. So I did want to mention one thing I forgot. My colleague Romy Stanford is also joined the call today. Romy looks after inside sales for the Middle East region. Some of you have obviously emailed and spoken to her before, but she helps me out very heavily with the region, and she will be following up with everybody after the call to ask if you have any questions, need any further information, and all that in conjunction with Forefront. So for today's presentation, obviously we've done the welcome now. So once again, welcome to the call, everybody, and thank you for joining. We will be having an overview of all of Spectra's hardware. That's our tape technology, our Black Pearl NAS and Black Pearl object storage disk, and that will be given by Adam. We will also be talking about our software product, which is StorCycle, a very exciting data mover product that allows you to put the right data in the right place at the right time for the right cost. And then we will just finish off with a few use case studies on how Spectra can be deployed in several different environments. So with that, I will stop talking and I will hand over to Adam, who will kind of take you through the presentation. Just one note before we start: there is a little chat box up in the top right hand corner of the screen. It's a little kind of thought bubble. If anyone wants to ask any questions, would you kindly ask them there? and then at the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A session. Obviously, if you don't want to do that, you can ask questions at the end anyway. But it's just, if you ask questions in the chat box, then I can keep a note of all the questions and we can answer them at the end of the call. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Adam.
Thank you, Tim. Welcome, everybody. My name's Adam, as Tim briefly said, and this is just a presentation showing you where Spectra Logic is today, as Tim mentioned, some of our product offerings and where we've come from. We've been in business for 40 years now, with installations in over 20,000 sites worldwide, and we're a patent-rich company. We regularly spend 18% of our annual turnover on R&D and have a number of unique patents lodged with the US Patents Office. We operate in 80 countries around the world, and primarily we are focused on data storage, archiving, to a lesser extent backup, but general business protection, and more recently with secondary storage devices, hardware, and data lifecycle management software. Tim mentioned that our software product is a data mover. That is entirely true, but I regard it more as a storage management piece of software to allow customers to optimize their storage environments. Now, we've come from a tape heritage. We've been building tape libraries for in excess of 30 years and gone through various technologies of tape. But we also were the first to market to launch object storage on tape, offering companies the ability to do on-premise and in the cloud hybrid storage. Now, we have a wide pedigree of companies and customers around the world. A number are listed here: TV companies, courier companies, science and supercomputing sites, and bioinformatics or genetics, genomics sites, and very large universities, including space agencies like NASA, as you can see here. We are very much working with our partners, so you'll notice here there are a number of very big players in the marketplace, some of which produce disk solutions, some of which produce software solutions, all of which partner with us from the point of view of building merged solutions, combined solutions that offer more than the sum of the parts. So we're big at media entertainment with our partners Avid. We're big in general backup with EMC, HPE, and Veritas, and others besides. And also with the general tier 1 store vendors with whom we partner, because we tend to be tier 2 and tier 3. We're the secondary storage vendors that these companies like to work with. And lastly, it would be remiss of me not to mention some of the very large sites that we work with in the world. We may be a company of 380 people globally, but as it stands as of today, 9 of the top 10 largest supercomputing sites in the world use Spectra technology for archiving and storing their research data. That includes the large labs like Los Alamos in the States, KAUST in Saudi, Rutherford Appleton over here, and we recently won CERN, the big particle collider in Europe. These are very, very large sites, and it is a testament to the reliability and the trust they place in our technology to store their data, their large volumes of data. We recently, quick fact here, shipped the largest storage device for archiving in the world. We shipped a 24-frame T-Finity library to Lawrence Livermore, which was fun to build. Most of these sites have videos on their websites. I'll happily find some of them for you after this session, where you can see my team, my global team, building and assembling these very large robotic storage devices. So let's see some of the things that Spectra does. Many of you know us for tape automation, for small libraries, medium and large. We start at 5 to 10 slots, and scale up to over 53,000 slots, close to nearly 1.6 exabytes, actually just now 2 exabytes. And the interesting thing with our tape libraries is we're constantly innovating them, such that we are the only library vendor that now supports the last remaining 3 tape technologies. That's LTO, TS10K, and TS1160. And we do that in a variety of different form factors, be they rack-mounted libraries or the multi-frame libraries we talked about for the supercomputing sites. But we're not just known for tape storage. We also do NAS storage, commodity NAS storage, where just like our tape libraries, we like to try and squeeze as much storage in as little space as possible. We are, as an engineering company, dedicated to creating high density, innovative solutions to get more storage in less space. So in our NAS market vertical, we allow you to have just short of 16 petabytes of raw disk storage in a 19-inch rack. And you can see that in that rack of devices. The device itself is called Black Pearl. It's our brand name for NAS storage and also for object storage. Now, I talked a little bit about object storage. NAS storage is just CIFS and NFS, network attached storage, but object storage is the new paradigm that people are hearing more and more about for the last 3 to 5 years. Many of you have heard of Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, Microsoft Azure. And then we're not alone when working with object storage, but we were first to market with the Black Pearl offering that allows us to create on-premise object storage where a customer has a copy of their files, their data, their research content, their media on tape and in the cloud and on object storage disk. Black Pearl allows you to create a object storage solution with differing performance levels, scaling from modest and small to medium to very high performance throughput, and to do that with a choice of storage targets, be it object storage disk, tape, or cloud, or replicated to other sites. So Black Pearl as a brand, we've collapsed 2 or 3 brands into the Black Pearl family, is our coverall name for object storage and NAS storage. It's the same hardware, it's just controlled by our software keys when we first install the product. And in fact, you can have NAS storage and object storage on the same hardware. Now, more latterly, in the last couple of years, we have launched into the software market. We always have been a small scale software player, but we decided and saw what was going in the market and decided that there was a gap in the market for storage lifecycle management software to help customers move data from expensive primary tier 1, production storage, and move that inactive data, the data that hasn't been touched for 3 to 5, 6, 9 months or more, or if it's just needs to be moved and archived. What StorCycle will allow us to do, it will allow us to identify aging or inactive data, to show you what the cost savings would be in migrating that data from expensive disk storage down to a lower, more cost-effective tier, and to protect that with every piece of research that we have, with checksums, with multiple placements on different storage categories, but making restoration or recalling of that data as simple as possible and self-service. And that's really what StorCycle is. It's a means of cleaning up, doing housekeeping of your storage environment, making your production environment more efficient and not wasting any space on it, but still storing and protecting your legacy data on the appropriate tier of storage. So our hybrid ecosystem encompasses quite a lot of different storage paradigms. On here we have the traditional file-based data creation on the top left-hand side of the screen. And on the right-hand side, we also have traditional tape storage using traditional HSM third-party products of which there are many in the market and which talk to tape libraries. You can see here that for us, Black Pearls and StorCycle sit really in the middle there, allowing us to migrate data from production file-based storage into tape-based storage, to replicate from one Black Pearl to another, to build an on-site object-based hybrid cloud where we have object storage disks for fast activity on site, replication to another site for protection, and maybe a copy popped into the written to the public cloud. And that can include Wasabi, Amazon, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud to be added shortly. So we're building an ecosystem here that allows customers to not just write to the cloud, but still have their own copy for quick access and for peace of mind, perhaps, on site, allowing them the choice to move between public clouds should they wish to do so and not be tied into any one particular contract. One thing I should stress about our Black Pearl object storage offering: when we write to tape, we are a very open standards company. We like using the LTFS format, the open standard that's written to tape. So our tapes are fully readable by standard LTO and TS LTFS enabled tape drives, meaning that content can be shared between different users, sent between sites using that portable medium that is tape. As many of you will have read recently, there's been a number of ransomware and viruses and other attacks on various companies of differing sizes during the current COVID alert. We ourselves had a minor problem with that, and tape cannot be stressed as it is the ultimate protection against ransomware. Making a backup, having a copy of your archive data, your research data, your media off-site or protected in a tape library with a secondary copy elsewhere is your best protection against any of these up-and-coming threats. Because once the tape is disengaged from the drive, there's an air gap there. There's no likelihood of the data getting corrupted. The criminals can damage your disk systems, but you still have your content protected. And for that reason alone, I think tape will be around for many, many years to come. So that leads me nicely into a section really just covering what's new in tape. It's been around now for 40 years plus, and many of you may think it's old technology, it's withering and dying, and perhaps SSD is the future. Nothing could be further from the truth. We are seeing a dramatic uptake in tape technology around the world for a number of reasons: the growing volumes of data, the requirement to protect and retain data for longer, and really just protection, as we said, against ransomware and malicious attacks. So let's look to see what's happening in tape technology. Hopefully you'll learn something from this today, and what's quite exciting on the roadmap coming down the line. Now, as I started off with, I said that Spectra makes small, medium, and large size tape libraries. As you can see here, we're looking at the Stack library, the T950, and our very colorful Tfinity library with cool graphics. We are the only library company that allows you to highly customize your high-end tape libraries with customer-generated logos and graphics. Many of the largest customers like endorsing their library, making their tape archive, their research computers presentable to the public and notable guests. So we work with them to create custom logos. And our Tfinity, we're very proud of this fact, is the largest, most scalable storage device currently available, scaling up to 44 frames. Now, as you can see listed across the bottom there, the Stack is our entry-level and mid-range library, which for a number of reasons we launched. It allows us to have a high number of tape drives, half-height tape drives in the rack, and scaling to about 560 slots. But it also, as a differentiator, allows us to excuse me, take other vendors' full height and half height tape drives and incorporate them into our libraries. If you're, for example, migrating to our software, but you still need to read legacy tapes, So we can take full height or half height LTO drives and incorporate them into our Spectra stack from most major vendors. There's some restrictions, but we call this the migration pass, more on that later, but it allows us and you to save on your investment and to move legacy tape drives across for the purposes of migration and infrequent recalls. Our T950 library there in the middle is probably one of our oldest libraries. It's been in existence now for 16 years, and it scales to just over 10,000 slots with LTO. It is a 2-tape format library. It allows you to use the general LTO tape drives in the market. That's LTO 6, LTO 7, LTO 8. But it also allows us and some of our customers to use IBM's TS11 50, 55, and 60 drives. These are the enterprise class drives that some of the larger sites are using, and they allow you to store up to 20 terabytes per tape native. That's non-compressed. So on a T950, generally I can get about 120 petabytes capacity. That's 12 terabytes of tape, 10,000 slots, 120 petabytes in 8 frames, 8 frames being 8 times roughly 80 centimeters in width, so about 6.4 meters in length. That's a pretty dense offering. It is very dense in terms of dense in the way that we store tapes in the library using our unique TeraPack design, but also power efficient and using less space in your data center. Now, the key differentiator between the T950 and the Tfinity Exascale is robots. Not just one, but 2 robots in the tape library to the right. Dual robotics allows us to go faster, have more resilience, failover. If one robot has mechanical problems, the other robot can still access any tape in any location. But uniquely, it also allows us to work with 3 different tape formats: IBM's LTO, the TS11 60 tape drive, and also more recently helping our Oracle customer base move Oracle legacy T10K Cs and D drives into our Tfinity library. As some of you know, the Oracle user base, the T10K D drives are no longer being created or enhanced. There will be no T10KE, and a number of those customers expressed concerns to us about how to migrate from one technology to another. We took the view we'd help them by taking and incorporating that particular drive type into our libraries. We've now done it at a number of sites, helping some of the largest sites migrate to Spectra technology from the SL8500. We'll be covering that in a little bit more depth later in this presentation. So let's start off with looking at the stack. For those people in need of a small backup device, scaling up to 560 slots, this is a very modular design. It's designed by Spectra in Colorado and manufactured for us by our German colleagues in central Germany, mainland Europe. It is ported with the Spectra Blue Vision software that controls the library. And as I said earlier, it allows us to put 42 half-height drives in a normal 42U rack, or 21, full-height drives. It's really simple to install, really simple to expand above and below. In fact, customers can install it themselves. It comes with a nice 5.7-inch color touchscreen on the front and a simple to use wizard in a little window that allows you to control, configure, create alerts, and manage the library from day one. It's been a great success for us, replacing 2 or 3 of our low-end libraries with a library that scales in number of drives and or capacity as well, up to about 560 slots. You'll see here that typically when we grow it from a single control module in the middle of the rack here, I can expand the library above and below with 3 units above and 3 units below, up to a total of 7 units in a standard 42U rack. Each unit is 6U in height and contains 80 slots. And with the varying technologies, for the sake of argument, with LTO-8, it can store up to about 6.7 petabytes of storage in a 42U rack. And with the high number of drives, so you can tune it for capacity or performance, we can get upwards of 12.6 gigabytes per second throughput with LTO-8 drives in that particular library. It's a really simple library to set up. I almost call it entry level, but it is entry level to medium-sized enterprise, designed to be customer installable, easy to maintain, and incredibly reliable. Now, as with all of our Spectra's tape libraries, we try to make things as simple and intuitive and easy to use. So our Blue Vision software on the stack is modeled from our Blue Scale software on our other libraries. You can manage it on the front of the library. You can have it as a remote desktop using any standard browser. You can partition that library to share between different departments. Perhaps a media department wants to create promotions and TV content, and the accounts department needs to use a standard database backup application. You can partition or virtualize that library, so you can have 2 or 3 virtual libraries in the same hardware using our shared library services partitioning software. Like all of Spectra libraries, we have MLM functionality, media lifecycle management, which allows you to regularly check the health and usage of the Spectra certified media. Now, this is an LTO-based library. It's an open free market. There are only 2 manufacturers of LTO media in the market, that being Fuji and Sony. But Spectra take media from both those suppliers, and we apply a patented process to create what we call Spectra certified media. This enables our media to be pre-cleaned, manufacturing debris to be removed from the media, the layer of the tape, and for it to be the smoothest, most reliable, and highest capacity tape available in the market. We're very proud of that. We call it Spectra certified media. There's a slide on that later in this deck. And it's been proven to reduce head wear, to protect the content more, and to cause less shoe shining and less mechanical problems between the media and the tape drives. It also comes with a lifetime guarantee on the media. So again, not many manufacturers are offering that at the moment. Now, Spectra have always offered encryption. We were the first tape library vendor to introduce encryption built into the library for free when LTO-4 and LTO-5 came out. And we continue that tradition of innovation. Our stack and all of our other libraries are compatible with a number of different encryption technologies, KMIP being the industry standard terminology for level of protection, key management that stands for, and ESKM is another type of encryption. But either way, be it an external server or a key held on the library, we have 3 or 4 different ways of telling the tape drives in a tape library to encrypt your data for those customers who, for regulatory reasons or legal reasons, need to encrypt their data, built into the library at no extra cost. Lastly, on the stack, all of our libraries come with library and tape drive diagnostics. We're constantly looking at the health of the recording devices, the tape drives. We're looking at the tape health, the library mechanics health, and there are built-in email alerts, logging, SNMP traps that allow you to monitor the health of the hardware remotely. Now, it would be bad of me if I didn't mention the reliability. We take a lot of time as an engineering company to design our libraries for use in quite demanding environments. A number of innovations we've done. So we pick power supplies that have highly rated power efficiency. We design our robotics for a high number of duty cycles. And on our higher end libraries, we put filtration. We actually filter the air on the front of the library to keep the inside of the library clean, trying to maintain a positive air pressure. All of these tiny little incremental changes in the design of our libraries are design features purely to make the process of writing data, reading data, and getting access to your content and your research data as reliable as possible with industry class error recovery and error reporting, and with built-in diagnostics to tell you how the library is performing and how each of the components in that change. Because a tape library is a sum of parts. It's a robot, it's a drive, it's the media, and a number of moving parts. We track the health of as many of those as we can in our software to give you a reliable experience with our hardware. Now, I talked about this a little bit earlier, and I intend to go through a little bit more on this. Migration paths. I mentioned that our libraries allow you, in the case of the stack, to incorporate other library vendors' drives into our library. So if you, for example, have LTO5 drives, LTO5, LTO6, 7, or 8, you can move those directly across into the Spectra stack, and that will allow you to read legacy LTO3 through to LTO8 media that may have been created with any other vendor's libraries. With the stack, we support up to 20 partitions, and depending on how you want to do the migration, you could perhaps use the existing application that wrote the data originally, or you can land that data by reading it from the tapes onto disk and then re-archiving it into using a different application. Every migration is different. Every movement from one piece of hardware or one type of technology to another is possible. So more than happy to have discussions with you after the session with Sarir and his team. If any of you have requirements to maintain information that you've written historically, but that you perhaps want to migrate to a more modern technology and still make it readable using our migration paths. It's been deliberately designed to be modular, simple to implement. We've tested it in the field at a number of sites, and it is a service that both we and Forefront offer to allow you to migrate from legacy archive material, legacy vendors from their tape libraries and tape drives into ours. We are the only library vendor offering that migration facility to protect your investment in previous generations of media and drives. So here's what a typical migration path might look like. You may have invested in another vendor's library, perhaps using LTO, and it might be LTO 3, 4, or 5, on which those media and those drives are now really end of service and end of life. What we can do with our Spectra stack, is a great little modular library, is move the old media across, as you can see in the middle of the screen there, of the older LTO tapes, move the older LTO5 drives across, and that can be LTO 5, 6, and 7. And in so being, you create one partition, one half of the library perhaps, or a third of the library, to be able to read that old data and write it to a new partition with LTO8 drives and LTO8 media. The process of doing that will save you not only space, but ongoing support costs. You'll be protecting your earlier investment in the LTO drive technology and safeguarding your data as you move it across. This is a well-proven technique that we've now used in the last 2 years around the world with our customers who want to consolidate their older LTO libraries and backups into something more readable with a smaller footprint and lower ongoing costs. The stack is great at being able to do that. But it would be silly of me not to mention the fact that we can do this with smaller libraries at the low to medium end of the library range, but also at the high end. Our Tfinity in a similar fashion, is also capable of taking Oracle T10K drives from, for example, the SL8500. We can take some of their drives, their media, and incorporate them into the Tfinity Exascale library in a separate partition, and then migrate that data across to LTO or IBM's TS1160 drives. Some of the larger oil companies, some of the weather bureaus, some of the biggest on the planet, are currently talking to us about doing exactly this. Ironically, since COVID struck, we've been busier than ever talking to many of the world's largest archive and data generating sites about doing exactly what you see on the screen, helping them move from Oracle libraries to our Tfinity library, which has a proven roadmap, which we can show where we're going with the library and what we're constantly doing to innovate with that library. If you'd like more information about Spectra Migration Plus, please do contact either myself, Tim, or Saria, or our colleagues at Forefront. We'll happily describe this in more detail to you. Now, in the middle of our range, I started off by talking about the Tfinity library. Next, the stack library. In the middle is our T950 library. This is our modular up to 8 frame library. It's a very popular library. A lot of TV companies use this particular library. And it has a compact hot and cold aisle design, so it fits in a standard data center row format with hot and cold aisles. It supports 2 tape drive technologies, as we covered earlier, and with LTO can support round about 300 petabytes of storage. That's assuming 2.5 to 1 compression, or around about 380 petabytes using TS1160 technology. So 2 tape drive technologies. Yes, you can mix them in the library should you wish to do so. And you can increase the capacity of this library using capacity on demand licenses. So you apply a license key and it opens up more storage. If you need more drives, we can put more drive frames in the library. If you need more storage, we can put more media expansion frames in the library. Pretty much everything Spectra does is modular, reusing common components across the range that we've had for a number of years and which are tried and tested. Lastly, I'll quickly look at our Tfinity Exascale library. The key differentiator, apart from those graphics on the front, is that any Spectra library, as you can see on the bottom section of the screen, is that we can apply a process called transcale. We can migrate you from one library to another, reusing the drives, sometimes the robotics, sometimes the terapacks, as you move from small to medium to large to very large, depending as your business grows and as your storage requirements change. The Tfinity library itself, being designed with dual robotics, has a number of incorporated designs to give it high reliability, redundancy, 24/7 activity, 365 days a year, and support, as we talked earlier, for really 3 major tape technologies. That's TS1160, LTO8, and T10K. Any of those tape technologies can be put into this library, either singly or all of them if you wish, and our universal robot picker will happily handle any tape going into any drive. Obviously, it doesn't put the wrong type of tape into the wrong type of drive, but we have videos. We have these libraries running 24 hours a day in our manufacturing plant, continuously testing and seeing the reliability of the robotic parts. We're very proud of the way that we built the robotic parts. This is our high-end, very large scalable library. It's called the Tfinity to Infinity and Beyond. It will allow us to continue growing. There's a very strong roadmap for this library, both in terms of speed, capacity, performance, and everything that we're doing to improve the tape experience. Now, both the T950 and the Tfinity share a couple of things in common, many things in common, in fact. They're all TeraPack based. The library stores the tapes in these handy little boxes called TeraPack, shown on the bottom right of this screen. This is a patent protected plastic box. It allows the tapes to be stored next to each other vertically. You can see in the picture with the green tapes in their boxes, the robot moves the entire TeraPack around. What does this design actually give us? It gives us the industry-leading density. In other words, 2 or 3 times the number of tapes in the same space than other rival library vendors. So we have the densest libraries, the most amount of storage in a footprint that can be achieved using this simple little TeraPack design. So it allows you to save space in your data center, in other words, to maximize the space needed for your tape archive by reducing the footprint. And what we've found over the 15, 20 years we've been using TeraPack libraries is that in moving tapes around in TeraPacks, both inside and outside the library, when a TeraPack comes out of the library, you pop a lid on it and you move 10 tapes or 9 tapes away in one box. Rather than handling pieces of media singly, it improves the reliability, the durability. It's safer for tape to use this TeraPack design. And we're very proud of the fact that we can achieve these levels of density with this design. Now on our libraries, just like the stack, our T950 and our Tfinity have our BlueScale software. A number of features listed on the screen here, all built into the software. We've been writing this software now for 16, 17 years. We're on version 12. And I won't read all of these off to you, but a lot of the features, all of the features here listed are built into the library for free. So partitioning, remote library management, auto drive cleaning, so the tapes are cleaned upon when they need to be cleaned automatically without external software needing to do that. But the other key parts are, we took a lot of time to develop software that continuously verifies the integrity of the data stored on tape. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you're building an archive of research data, content, experimental data, and you need to keep that for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the biggest worry for archivists is my content, my data safe? Can I read it all? Has nothing got damaged? Our data integrity verification are in conjunction with media lifecycle management, drive lifecycle management, allow the library operator to check on the health of every piece of media and to look at the statistics from any tape drive to see where they are in their lifespan, if any parts need replacing, before anything fails. So it's very simple on a Spectra library to run a media health report from the stack, the T950 or the Tfinity, to see exactly how your tapes are performing, how many times they've been used, and to run a verification of every piece of data written on those tapes. We call that digital integrity verification. It runs as a background task, but it gives you peace of mind that your data is fully readable, fully accessible, and hasn't been corrupted. Now, I started some of this presentation talking about our C4 certified media, Spectra certified media. And this is our manufacturing plant in the States, one of several rooms that's doing this. And you'll see that every piece of media goes through our process. We don't sample, we don't pick a few, we don't randomly check, we do every tape. So we buy in media from the 2 major suppliers, we bring it up to temperature, we clean every piece of media by running it through our robotic tape library cleaners, and that spins the tape past a carbide blade, removes manufacturing imperfections, and it guarantees that you get the highest and most consistent performance and capacity per tape, and the lowest read, write, retry error rate per tape. By doing this, it means that we get a consistent response from the tapes that we bring in. If any batch fails, we do not allow it into the market. We have a database of all the barcodes we've created, and we offer a lifetime guarantee on that media, both for LTO and for TS media. It's been proven at a number of sites that our tape, by being carbide cleaned or burnished and putting 40 different data points on the memory chip on each tape, allows us to track the health of every single piece of media that we supply. And that's the reason we call it Spectra certified media. So if your business is very, very keen to have your archive with the most reliable media tracked, monitored, and to give you peace of mind, Spectra certified media is the way to go to guarantee the best archive experience and backup experience with tape media. Now, what's going on in the data center marketplace? What kind of trends are we seeing? I don't propose to go solely through tape this morning. It'd be useful to take a chance to see what other companies, what the marketplace is doing. Every year, Spectra writes a state of the market white paper. Usually our CEO or CTO writes a document to say where he thinks the industry is going. And some noticeable trends have emerged. One of which is the cloud, obviously. Hyperconverged infrastructure, the likes of having storage processors in a super condensed box, an appliance, perhaps like Nutanix or VMware. So HCI is coming out and becoming more popular. One thing we're also noticing is that connection topology or methods of connection within the data center are changing. So for many, many years, really the last 2 decades, fiber channel has been the standard for block level storage, but more and more people are trying and seeing some of the benefits of using to high-speed Ethernet. Ethernet has a proven roadmap. Its roadmap is actually accelerating faster than fiber channel, and it allows a common connection device type, simplified management to tape drives, to network attached storage, such that we did a quick check and roughly 80% of the stored data currently is attached by Ethernet. So network attached storage you would expect to be Ethernet. Block level storage with fiber channel tends to be the super fast databases. That's where fiber channel is still good. But there's a constant battle of market share. And at the moment, Ethernet seems to be winning because the manufacturers of the cards are really developing the roadmap very, very quickly. And setting up network switches, setting up IP networks is something that more people in the industry are trained at. Fiber channel skills are rarer and slightly more expensive. So to that end, by spotting this trend in the switch to Ethernet connectivity, we worked with one of our partner companies to introduce Spectra Swarm. And this is a means by which you can attach tape drives within any of our libraries to supported servers and Ethernet switches so that there is no fiber channel connectivity within your data center. In the diagram I'm showing you here, the Ethernet switch at the top of this rack in the middle there, and with a number of servers underneath, is connected to the Swarm device using 40 gigabit ISER or RoCE. And within that Swarm bridge, we then attach behind it a number of SAS LTO tape drives. We will be enabling the TS1160 drives in an upcoming release. But at the moment, we've tested this with LTO7 and LTO8 drives, both for robotic control and for data throughput to the library. And it enables customers to plug in their tape library, their storage device to a network where the management and monitoring is all done over Ethernet using the Spectra Swarm gateway. Now the gateway supports up to 16 tape drives behind a single switch with a couple of 40 gig front-end Ethernet ports, and it supports RoCE v2 and iSCSI. So iSCSI is how the operating system would see the device driver, but actually it would see the device as a tape drive. So it's another means of connecting tape libraries and drives to backup and archiving software, excuse me, without the need for fiber channel within a data center. So I thought I'd finish this section just by quickly recapping on some of the features and benefits of the Spectra libraries. Here's one of the big libraries we actually recently built with the cool graphics. I can't actually see the customer name on it, but you'll see that we're very, very happy for our graphics department to work with customers who want very large archives. Our libraries are tightly integrated with all the major ISV software. So Net Backup, Networker, TSM, Spectrum Protect, and at least 30 or so different SCSI-based tape archiving software. It's fully supported on our tape libraries. That allows us to support multiple drive technologies, to offer endless scalability, and to also bring to the market the extremely fast and efficient robotics that our engineers spend their days and nights designing. Key benefit to our customers is a future-proof architecture. We are continually adding new things to the roadmap. We have a very long tradition of using customer feedbacks, working with our partners and our customers to take on their enhancement ideas and incorporate them into our products by continuously innovating. So I mentioned maximum compatibility. Here's just a smattering, a small list of vendors that work with our libraries. This isn't the full list. We work with virtually every package that's written for open systems tapes, so that can be IBM Spectrum Protect, Cray, Oracle software like SAMFS, QStar, HPSS. You may or may not have heard of some of these, but if you're interested in finding out which software is supported, both we and Forefront can happily provide you a full list of compatibility. And in fact, you can find the full list of ISV software listed on the IP address, sorry, the web address at the bottom of this slide. support.spectralogic.com/documentation/compatibility will give you a full list of every software application that works with Spectra libraries and has been tested. Tim, are you still there? Tim?
Yes, Adam, sorry, I was muted. Yes, I'm still here, mate.
So could you give a brief introduction to Spectra Black Pearl, Tim, just for a couple of seconds?
Sure, yeah. Okay, so our Black Pearl product is what we call our converged storage system. It has dual personalities that can be configured just as a NAS product with CIFS NFS presentation, Active Directory support, snapshots, replication, and it can also be have a personality as well as NAS as an object storage gateway. So it can be either or both. And in terms of an object storage gateway, it can then sit in front of our tape libraries. It could sit in front of our disk products, and it can give you obviously then an object storage gateway into tape using the industry standard LTFS format. It can be a gateway into disk, and it basically turns the disk into an object disk. And with our what we call intelligent object management, using our flexible data policies, you can then make copies onto disk. You can also make then a copy onto tape. You could make 2 copies on tape. You could eject one of them from the library and put them into a vault off-site. You can also then make copies into the cloud. You can replicate between 2 Black Pearls, so you can have a full DR solution. And all of this comes with what we call an open API, which basically allows you to program into the Black Pearl, and it can talk to many different types of applications. So that's a brief overview of our Black Pearl. So as I said, it can have 2 personalities, NAS or object storage or both. So hopefully that gives you a quick overview. I will pass it back to Adam.
Thanks, Tim. So as Tim said, this is standard general purpose IT hardware. The Spectra Black Pearl master head is a standard Supermicro chassis, but our expansion chassis, as you'd expect, have the highest density that we can get. So each of the other chassis in this full rack shown in the picture you're seeing at the moment can have up to 107 disks in 4U, which makes us the densest, highest, and very heavy disk storage system on the marketplace, because that's 107 disks in 9 expansion chassis underneath the head unit, giving a very high number, upwards of 830 disks in the rack, with a considerable amount of weight, but also the most storage, nearly 16 petabytes of raw disk storage within a rack. So let's just carve the front off the library, the Black Pearl NAS here. This is a super micro chassis with standard bezel on the front with a roving purple health hardware visual status beacon. You can see how the disks go into the main head unit, slotted behind that black bezel. We've carved away half the bezel here. And it has dual processors, SAS connections to each of the additional 4U JBODs, and we currently support 4, 8, 12, and 16 terabyte disks. The highest disks we can get at the moment in capacity are 16 terabyte disks, which we've been shipping now for 7-8 months, and had a very good experience with those in the field. For those sites that need encrypted data at rest, we do also offer the 12 terabyte self-encrypting disk drives as well. Now, the key thing with Black Pearl NAS is NAS, you might think. You just set it up, put it on the network, and share it out. That's true. But we offer different levels of stripe size. We create a pool of disks. We've made up of 1 or more arrays, changing the stripe size. Stripe size and the level of protection. So it can be mirrored, it can be RAID 5, RAID 6, so that's dual parity, or single parity or dual parity, depending on how you want to set up the level of protection on here. But as you create the pools, volumes, and shares, you export those volumes to your network using either industry standard SMB CIFS or NFS versions 3 and versions 4, with full Active Directory support on the CIFS side. Now, our operating system under the covers is ZFS. It's a self-healing, well-respected operating system designed for secondary storage. It's been around, it's the open ZFS version. It's been around for 16, 17 years and has a large team of many developers around the world that work with us. We work with them to continually add new support enhancements to it. And some of those enhancements are things like snapshots, endless snapshots, replication between one device and another. We support single, dual, 10 gigabit network interfaces, and also the more modern 40 gigabit interfaces. Performance-wise, you're going to see up to about 1 gigabyte per second sustained performance. So it's not the fastest NAS on the marketplace. It's not designed for that. It's designed for capacity and keeping more of your content online and accessible on the network, which is why I rate it as excuse me, tier 2 storage, really sitting in front of our tape libraries. Setting it up could not be simpler. We designed the interface to be able to allow customers to rack up the hardware in a rack and power it on and manage it using the remote browser. And as you can see here on the screen, you can set it up with protection level of mirroring, with single parity, dual parity, and triple parity. And we can also set the device up for capacity or performance. As you use that little slider across the middle of the screen, it will determine how the disks are laid out and how we optimize it for either capacity or performance. The device supports thin provisioning. That means that you don't have to allocate an absolute amount of space to each volume. You can say it's 5 terabytes, but actually we won't lock out that space. We'll share it from the pool, so you can over provision by thin provisioning. That means you can have a number of shares all sharing the same common space. We, under the covers, show you what that storage implications of that would be, what the overhead of setting it up that would be, using a nice graphical representation here, and allow you to set up snapshots so you can always go back to a point in time to perhaps recover or see what a file looked like on a certain day of the week. So our Black Pearl is, excuse me, is really NAS and more. It allows you to set the Black Pearl up as a general Active Directory enabled NAS device with users sitting on perhaps Windows machines as shown here. The Black Pearl can replicate to another NAS device, to another Black Pearl, perhaps in a different office over IP networks. But also we can split the box. It can be one or the other or both. We call it a combo box internally. We can have that as a full object store so that users can create data on their client Windows machines or Macs, excuse me, and use our Spectra S3 to write to the Black Pearl object storage, which will then write a copy off to tape, that being LTFS-enabled tapes, or to our object storage disk, or replicate it to another Black Pearl using object storage to replicate between sites. And we have customers around the world that have set up each of these types of implementations. Tim, I'm losing my voice. Can you take over a second? Excuse me.
Okay. Where did you just leave off there, mate?
So Tim, the last part, yes, I'm back again. My apologies. I had in English we say I had a frog in my throat, but my voice really crackled. So our Black Pearl object storage can also write to the public cloud alongside our on-premise copies, as shown here. So really what we're trying to show with this slide is that Black Pearl can be basic NAS, it can be a basic object store for writing to tape and cloud and disk, or you can combine that all into one box. It is a multi-personality brand and hardware platform. And data can flow between the two, so you can write data to Black Pearl as NAS, and we have built-in capabilities that will trickle that into the object store and still protect it for you using a neat little feature called Network File Interface, or NFI. And to add our software suite into the mix, we can also use StorCycle, pointing at primary storage or at customers' end user storage, to manage old inactive data from their network shares, from their personal computers, and pull that across and put a copy into the object storage system as well using StorCycle. More on StorCycle in a moment. It is really simple and easy to use software that allows you to scan and move inactive data to either NAS or to object store. The number of targets that it can write to is quite extensive. So recapping what you've seen really with Spectra tape libraries and our NAS and object storage box, our Black Pearl, you can kind of see here that if you have traditional backup applications, you might have a tape library, hopefully one of ours, where you may have a backup application backing up your primary storage, but you might also have a Spectra Black Pearl as part of your archiving solution to preserve and archive inactive or required data for the long term, which makes no sense to keep backing up all the time. So what I'm trying to say here is that in conjunction with what I would call legacy backup products like NetBackup, Commvault, and Networker, but also the newer players in the market like Veeam, Rubrik, Nutanix, Spectra can work with those partners to provide and create an archive solution that perhaps archives 60–70% of your primary data. And by doing 60–70–80% of archiving, you have a smaller amount to back up using your backup application. The key takeaway from this is that if you've already moved and protected old data that you don't access so often, you have less data to back up, and so your backups become more efficient and consume less time, and you're not backing the same old data up every week, every night, every month. Because if it's not changing, why do you need 10, 15, 20 backups of it? Archive the data, 2 copies, and make the smaller amount of data that's really business critical to you, make that part of your backup suite. So larger part archive, smaller part more efficient backup is where we're trying to steer and help our customers and partners. And StorCycle is part of that, because StorCycle can help our partners identify inactive, little used data on primary storage. So we don't compete in the primary storage market. We're not in tier 1. We don't really do SSD or high performance disk storage. What we do is we help customers identify data that's in the wrong place at the wrong cost, shouldn't really be there, and can be moved down to more efficient and better suited lower cost storage. It's not all about costs, it's putting your data in the right place for the right purpose for the right amount of time. Years ago, Tim and I, with previous vendors, used to call this information lifecycle management, or ILM. It's the ability to categorize and move data and store it based on its value to you. So if it's something you're not accessing very frequently, why have it on tier 1? Why not put it in the archive where you can still get to it easily, but it's not costing you so much to store? So with that, I'd like to move on to the last section really of our presentation. I'm conscious of time, Tim. We're about 10 past 10 locally. This last section really just covers StorCycle, Spectra's latest offering in the storage management software area. StorCycle is a tool to really help you identify and move data to the right tier of storage. Now, a lot of this presentation is gone around talking about trends in the industry. And many of you will have seen over the years the pyramid of tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 storage. We're not seeing that so much. We're seeing a consolidation in the industry where hard disk drive storage, spinning disk, is under pressure from very fast SSDs, which are getting bigger capacity, lower cost all the time, and faster. But also hard disks are suffering from tape and cloud taking the archive and the backup tier. So there is a general tendency in the industry at the moment to reduce complexity and have a primary or production tier of solid state or flash memory or of NVMe storage, really fast storage, and then what I call perpetual tier or object store tier that can be made up of disk, tape, and cloud. Let's think of some recent examples of that. When I say the perpetual tier, many of you probably use Dropbox, might use Apple iPhones like these, where your photos are backed up to the cloud. None of us have any idea where that's stored. Probably America, could be anywhere in the world, but we can get access to it from anywhere. That's what object storage is good at. And that is the fastest growing category of storage in the marketplace today. So it's kind of reducing down to a very fast primary tier and a limitless or very large storage tier that's slower with a different level of protection that is object-based, that makes it easy to share content anywhere in the world using a different topology. The key point is you can make very large cost savings by always having your data in the right place. So only the current projects, only the current work you're working on should ever be in production or the primary tier. Everything else typically has a life cycle of 3 to 4 months, maybe 6 months. When that project is finished, move it down to perpetual tier. And that's what StorCycle enables you to do. So StorCycle really came into being because a number of our customers asked us, is there a way to help them to identify data that is in the wrong place, to look for inactive files, to regularly scan file systems and network shares, and move it down to lower cost storage, but protect it were in the best way possible. So we developed StorCycle, having looked at what the rest of the market and the other vendors were doing, so that we could define sources and targets, sources to scan and reuse those scans, and then move that content to multiple targets, be that disk, cloud, tape, or any combination thereof. Very quickly, we saw that if you move data that's on the wrong expensive tier and can move it to a lower cost storage tier but protect it well, you could, as customers, save 50, 60, 70% on your storage costs by migrating content down to that perpetual tier and protecting it for now and the future, whilst also better protecting yourself from ransomware and natural disasters. So StorCycle came into being to be a policy engine to move data from primary storage to the perpetual tier, but also to help customers migrate from one technology to another, but all the time guaranteeing them user-based access to retrieve that data from the archive using a number of methods. And those methods could be HTML links, which I'll tell you about in a moment, SIM links, which are disk-to-disk links, and application-based methods to restore the data if you wish to do that. So really what StorCycle does is identify data that's in the wrong place by scanning, migrate that data for you, then it protects it in one or more places. So by having 2, 3, 4 copies of the data on lower cost storage, you protect yourself more from ransomware and disasters and things that can cause your business to be in trouble, but all the time giving you ability to have constant access to that data. So it's all available, it's just migrating it down to the more appropriate storage tier, the perpetual tier. So StorCycle really sits in the middle of this 2-tier design that we're seeing more and more in the marketplace. This diagram is kind of looking at supercomputing, the HPC marketplace. It's looking at M&E, broadcast and media, post-production, where the boxes on the screen are kind of sized, kind of about 30% on the left, 70% on the right. It's deliberate to show you what's going on here. The highly expensive SSDs, NVMe, flash-based storage is where you would expect it to be, in the primary storage tier on the left-hand side. And maybe block level storage, maybe CIFS or NFS network attached storage. And it could be in multiple silos or multiple discrete places. What StorCycle allows you to do by sitting in the middle, bridging these 2 tiers, it sits on Windows, it sits on Linux, it can be single servers or clustered. It allows you to scan that production tier, that primary tier, and move a copy, and then delete it from the primary tier if you wish, but move a copy to your own NAS, doesn't have to be Spectra NAS, or to lovely Spectra NAS called Black Pearl, to our object storage, or to the public cloud, or combinations thereof, or to tape libraries as well behind our Black Pearl system. So StorCycle is the overarching software data management layer to scan and migrate inactive data, data that's not used very much, data that's in the wrong place, from the left-hand side to the right-hand side of the slide that you're looking at the moment. Now, we fully support, if you just want to move it to the cloud, you can do that. You don't have to have Spectra storage on the perpetual tier. If you want to just write to the cloud, or you already have some NAS storage on site, this is a software offering. It can run on VM, virtual machines, or on dedicated Windows or Linux servers. We're on version 3 already. We're ramping up, and a number of customers expressed strong interest in StorCycle. We've deployed it already in a number of sites around the world. The key differentiator is that this is what I best describe as an 80-20% solution. It does 80-90% of the tasks that you want to do for a attractive and a simple method of moving data from one environment to another. It's not just a copy tool, it's not just a selection or scanning tool. It is a protection tool with checksumming, with containerization. So if you have lots of small files, Normally moving those would cause bad performance. We can group them into a container and write them off to tape if you wish. So lots of built-in little tunings and features to optimize your archiving to the Perpetual tier. What does it look like? Well, StorCycle operates in a standard browser, so this is just the management interface of StorCycle with a tabular design. The tabular design down the left-hand side, and little, as we call them, little donuts on the screen. Tim?
Yeah.
You're not muted because you have a lot of noise.
Is that me, or let me mute everybody? Hey, how's that, Adam? Is that better? Is that better?
That's better. Someone muted me now. I do apologize. So the StorCycle screen, the management screen, essentially shows you the amount of data you have already migrated. It can give you a simple cost estimation of the savings you've made by moving content from your primary storage to your perpetual storage, because we can attribute or put a cost per gigabyte or cost per terabyte on the differing devices that you're storing it with and the number of objects that you've protected. By having a modern design like this, it allows you to set up the scan process, the repeating schedule, so you can get StorCycle to regularly scan the same places and move data from them, from production to Perpetual tier, as data ages and it becomes a candidate to be moved down to that lower cost and well-protected storage. Now, as I said, this is in version 3. We have a nice, strong roadmap with StorCycle to add new features, new CLIs, command line interfaces to it. And as you migrate the data, we firstly identify it by scanning the file system and walking through it. The scans are designed by nature to be infrequent, not continuously scanning, so putting a heavy workload on your production environment. They are reusable, and our data movement policies can be throttled. Throttle means slowed down so that they can be designed to run at any time of the day or night when the system is less busy. The whole purpose of this is to scan, show you what the move would do, how much data would get migrated by a lovely graphical design as shown on the right-hand side of the screen. And this can be set up as a one-time or scheduled event, perhaps moving files based on age or file size or any other attribute that you want to put in there. The key takeaway is that when you are designing these scans and then migrations, you can put user-defined metadata in there. You can put descriptors. You can say this is for a certain project, this is for a certain company, a department, and additional hashtags that will allow you to search the scans and bring back not only single files, but whole projects should you wish to do that. And that leads me neatly into the way that StorCycle has been designed to run. It can run by using different file attributes. You can migrate whole project directories just by clicking and dragging those directories. And those directories could be projects, experimental results, science-based results, depending on what your industry is, or perhaps movie content. And you can move all the files in a directory, do it as a one-time event, and all the projects could be moved in the same way. But also, you can set up these policies such that we'll scan the file system based on age, size, general IT data, finding and scanning and looking for infrequently accessed data, and set that up as a recurring cleansing event. A bit like running a defrag on your laptop to clean up the space. This is moving data that's aged, that is inactive, and it's moving it from your production environment and moving it down to a lower tier of storage and protecting it. Now, one of the things when you are setting up the migration policy, when you migrate files, we can leave two things behind. We can keep the source file in production, just make a copy. In other words, we can remove the source file with no links at all, just move it to secondary storage and put it in the archive. Or we can leave behind HTML web links, in other words, or symbolic links. Symbolic links are primarily for NAS targets. Symbolic links mean that when you see the directory structure in a file system, you click on the name of the file, which you think is still there, and it automatically comes from somewhere else in the system, another NAS device. It's a common feature of file systems. Basically, the terminology is called symbolic links, and it applies to NAS targets only. So you've got a fair bit of flexibility here of defining the source, defining the target, defining the file parameters to search for, setting the schedule, and how you want that copy to behave. And this slide, the next slide I'm showing you, really shows what happens when, let's say you have a directory of 5,000 files of differing file sizes, and some of those files are candidates for being moved. When we move the file across into the perpetual storage, we leave the file names in the directory, but we change the suffix at the end of the file name to be .html. Hopefully you can see here on your screens that, for example, generalit.dat becomes generalit.dat.html. That file shrinks from whatever file size it was down to about 1 kilobit or less. So it saves space on the primary storage, but it is a pointer that allows you to restore that file later by clicking on that file name from within your browser. And when you do try and click to restore that file name, so for example, this one here, file21.txt, you can see that this allows authorized users, so general users, to restore the file themselves. It tells you when it was archived, when it was last accessed, and so forth, or to restore the entire project, all the files associated with that file that were archived at the same time. So this has been designed to be a self-service archive and restore tool, so that users, when their content, their data has been archived, they can restore it themselves with minimal intervention, having to request it from administrators. And the other thing that many of our customers asked us to put into it is, could we put a cost savings calculator into StorCycle? And what this allows us to do is, you could, for example, scan your file system. Perhaps you've got 400 terabytes of storage there or more. And in this instance, if you scanned it for files or objects greater than 6 months of age or greater than 1 megabyte in size, we'll do a quick calculation with a graphical plot, depending on the parameters you pick, to show you what your potential cost savings would be by freeing up that space on the primary storage and moving it to perpetual lower cost cloud-based storage, or perhaps on-premise NAS, depending on where you move it to. The ability to calculate that saving is based on you giving us a cost per terabyte, as you can see in this example, of roughly $1,000 per terabyte in production, and maybe $170 per terabyte on secondary storage. So depending on the amount of inactive data you move, that potential saving, moving it to lower cost storage, will be shown in our free savings calculator that's built into the product. Now, StorCycle comes with a number of different license levels, ranging from basic, which is just a 3 administrator license level, a work group with up to 25 users, a data center license up to 100 users, and enterprise, which is unlimited users, free cloud out, schedule delete, and another set of features besides. We offer a license purchase of StorCycle or a renewable subscription model, which Saria and our colleagues at Forefront would be happy to talk to you about. It is software. It's designed, as I said, to move from primary storage to secondary storage. And it's designed to do all that at a much lower cost than other offerings within the marketplace. So looking at some of the case studies where this has actually saved customers money. This particular diagram is Spectra's corporate IT department. It saved Spectra the requirement to go out and buy more primary storage from our NetApp and Isilon Tier 1 storage. By backing up our Tier 1 storage using normal backup software to a Spectra library, our backups were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we gave the software to our head of IT. He'd never come across a tool like this before, told him how to use it, and he very quickly realized how he could use StorCycle to scan the production primary environment, move inactive data into an archive, and reduce the size of his backup window. It made our corporate IT department, this is a year and a half ago, much more efficient, much more streamlined, and it made our backups quicker, but still allowing full access to legacy data that we need to keep as a company. This is just but one example of corporate IT, but it comes back to a common theme. Backup and archive should always coexist, and the purpose of archive is to store data that you have to keep for the long term, whilst reducing the amount of data that you have to back up, which is a different workflow, making that backup more efficient. So it saved us money on licensing costs for our backup software. It deferred the need to buy more primary storage, and it made our operation more efficient. Now, in the media and entertainment marketplace, this workflow really shows that with creating new TV programs and new movies, new films, new episodes, footage comes in from the cameras and lands on production storage, and whilst being edited by workstations and the final content being generated, that can be archived. But the key thing was we discovered a lot of production companies, particularly for reality TV and sports, generate a lot more footage, a lot more hours of content that they don't get to broadcast, but they want to keep. And StorCycle proved to be a really great tool for migrating old assets, but also protecting all of the extra generated footage that they might repurpose or reuse in the next season of sports, or maybe as promotions for the next series of a TV program or the next sequel in a movie. So StorCycle became a low-cost way of protecting large amounts of assets that aren't part of the production environment but still need to be kept in case they're wanted for reuse. And lastly, we had a use case study. This is quite an interesting one. It allowed a very large pharmaceutical company to replace their existing HSM, hierarchical storage management system, that was not quite working with the efficiency and speed they wanted. What they needed was a means to archive research projects for new genomic sequences and drug discovery. So all the research when a drug is being developed has to be kept for a number of years for legal reasons. So StorCycle sat right in the middle there, looking at machine-generated data from their genomic scanners and their research data, microscopes and other equipment, and stores all of that and moves that data down to the lowest cost, well-protected storage tier that allowed that pharmaceutical company and biomedical institute to preserve their research so that they could go back and look to see the results of tests, to put metadata tags on it, to find those test results easily, all of which they couldn't do with their existing HSM. So StorCycle is not just a scanner, it's not just a tool to move data from one thing to another, it's not just a data mover, it is a protection software storage management solution that finds ways of moving data and content from where it's badly stored and in the wrong place and moving it to the right place. That's the best way of describing it. So Tim, with that, I realize I'm coming up to just up to 1/2 the hour. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Adam, for all of that. We do have a few questions, but I will start off. I will start off with the prize draw, because that was obviously one of the things that we put out there. Let me just quickly. I will take back the screen. and I will put the slide up, and just make me presenter. Okay, share my screen, and then I will do this. Okay, so I would firstly like to say congratulations to SMLDIN, to Jitu, and to Mubashar, who are the winners of the 3 vouchers, Amazon vouchers for today. Those will be given out by Forefront. They will take care of you in that respect. So congratulations on that. And I did forget. Sorry about that. I did forget to turn my camera on. So hey, I'm back, everybody. So yeah, congratulations to the 3 voucher winners. And finally, there were some questions that came through. The first one was regarding the stack and the minimum configuration. Obviously, the stack minimum configuration starts at 40 slots. So 40 slots in one drive, and that can obviously be expanded all the way up to 560 slots in 10 slot increments, and up to 42 half-height drives or 21 full-height drives. So hopefully that will answer that question. And there was also a question about media lifecycle management and what checks we do. Now, we basically run in excess of 40 data point checks for MLM to check the health of all the media. And one of the benefits of this, obviously, which is another question someone asked about backups, is that we ensure that your backups don't fail because we do all those data point checks. We check the media so that it's good, so that you don't write good data to bad media or media that's on the way to being bad. And we also can do pre-scan, post-scan, and all of those good things to make sure that when you write the data to tape, what you write to tape is written to tape, and it's read and can be read back from tape. So hopefully that answers those questions. And there was a question just come in. So we talked about, okay. So there's a question, Adam, regarding security features other than data encryption, since cyber attacks are increasing day to day. I think you did cover that about air gapping, did you not?
Yes, I did. It's a good question, Tim. So the point with having a tape copy is that tape does provide you with air gap protection. The tape is written by the tape drive. It's verified by a write head and then a read head straight afterwards. The data is checksummed as it's written to tape. So the application can be set up to write, depending on whether it's an archive or a backup application or our own Black Pearl, to check some data end to end, so any corruption gets detected. But the key point with ransomware is having an offsite backup, having an archive that is, in English, we say immutable or unchangeable, meaning that if it's written to tape and the tape is not in the drive, no virus on this planet can jump out of the air or down a wire and into a tape cartridge. So you have a final insurance copy that ransomware currently can't get to. We discovered to our horror, and this has affected a few companies that rely on the cloud or use the cloud, that cloud buckets, object stores, I wouldn't say can be hacked. It's generally an error in setup or an administrator who's forgotten to put a password on there or has set a very easily guessable password. Having your backups written to just the cloud or just to only a disk subsystem that's mounted somewhere on the network means that a miscreant, a person of malicious intent, can go after them. We know that because it happened to us, where the backups were attacked, the disk-based backups, through the backup application, because somehow they managed to get hold of the backup credentials. If your tapes are already in the library or they've been off-cited from the library, no online server can get to that data. So they can destroy all of your disk subsystems, they can destroy your file systems, but you've still got a copy of all your data. The more frequent you take those backups, the better. So the key purpose of tape as a final insurance policy is I want to say it's pretty much guaranteed as a technology, because it is ultimate protection against ransomware hacking, that people can't hack tape drives if the tape's not in the drive. Tim.
Okay, thanks, Adam. And one final question that came in was about our tape libraries. I think particularly the stack. Can the customer buy the stack library chassis and use existing drives and tapes? Now, obviously, you covered this in the stack part of the presentation. And as part of our migration pass, customers can take their drives from their older libraries. Obviously, we would need to check that first, but they can take those drives from LTO5 onwards from their existing libraries into the stack, and they can use those drives to obviously read their existing tapes and migrate their data from their existing tape for LTO format to a new format. So that's one thing that answers that question, hopefully, and that was covered. Also about tapes. Now, obviously, you can use tapes that are purchased on the open market from other manufacturers, but you will not get the benefits of our MLM, our media lifecycle management features. So using Spectra certified media, you get primarily a lifetime guarantee and no quibble lifetime guarantee, where we will replace any piece of media that has failed or gone bad, but also all the MLM features. If you use non-Spectra media, the media will work just fine, but you will not get the benefits of the Spectra certified lifetime warranty, and you will not get the benefits of the MLM features, whereby we monitor those 40+ data points on the tapes. So hopefully that answers those questions. Anything else to add on that, Adam? Or kind of answered that?
You've covered most of it, Jim. The major point, as you quite rightly said, is that's full and it's half-height drives. We can resled those with the special little sleds that go into the Spectra stack. If you have a project that you think that might be relevant to, or you have an aging or unsupported library, perhaps from another vendor, please let us know. Please talk to Saria, Tim, or myself. And we do have a compatibility slide. There are some that we can't, but that's a small number. Generally, the drives need to be on the latest version of firmware that was available when that drive technology was around. So it's LTO5 onwards, full or half height, SAS or fiber channel. And we can resled them. I've done 3 or 4 projects myself very recently where the customer has resledded the drives themselves. They didn't actually get us to come on site to do it. But if you'd like full front and they're trained engineers to do it, they'll be more than happy to do it for you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adam. Okay, well that answers all the questions that I have. So I will just say once again, thank you very much for your time and attendance today. Hope you found the presentation content informative and interesting. And obviously we will follow up with everyone after this call. And if you need any further information, please contact Forefront Technologies or Adam and myself. So thank you very much and have a great day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.